Well, hello, my beautiful audience, and we are going on to our next episode with my co-operator here, co-magician, Nikki, who is an intuitive coach, and she's an expert in so many metaphysical modalities, which are amazing. And we are here to share them all with you and also help you see how you can use these tools to help you discover your magic, discover who you are, and just kind of like shorten your path a little bit because the tools exist and they work, and she knows how to use them. Today, we're going to be diving in a little bit more into astrology and also show you how we are applying astrology and what we learn about it in our life to shine our magic. Nikki, welcome. How are you
Wonderful.
today?
Thank you. I'm doing so great. I'm excited to talk about all of this stuff because it really, as it activated in my life changed in a way that I didn't even anticipate for the better, especially in my career. So last time we spoke, I had talked about the sun sign and people understanding their sun sign, knowing what it is and how it activates in their life. And for me personally, my sun sign is Aries. So an Aries is typically on the impetus of change. They are the change agent, they are the pioneer, they're more of a classic entrepreneur. They're led by fire, and they're a cardinal sign, and a cardinal sign means that they are always initiating and starting things. Which was interesting because for myself, my career started in corporate. I was in marketing and then I went into HR. And my corporate career was 20 years, but I kept feeling like I am on my path, but this distinctly doesn't feel right. And when I learned deeper into my astrology chart, what the total componentry was of the planetary placements, it all made sense. So the first thing that I like to have people look at is their moon sign. And you have your sun, which is a lot of your personality and where you're eventually journeying to. But the moon really helped me make sense of why I felt okay in corporate, but the sun made me understand why I needed to leave. So the moon, my moon is Virgo. Virgo is a very systematic, methodical, step-by-step type of emotional, what would I say? Emotional understanding of yourself and how you operate is the moon sign. So I was doing fine in a corporate environment, given my moon being in Virgo and very operational, but my sun was pushing me towards the entrepreneurship, pushing me towards self-expression. So that was my first aha is, of course, I can feel good doing kind of the systematic, methodical process with the Virgo moon, but my sun is pushing me. And when you look at your career in a natal chart, you're always looking at what I call the sixth house within the natal chart, which is your everyday work. And then the 10th house and the IC, which is right by your 10th house, which is your ultimate destiny. So for me, my house of work was actually ruled by Aries. So once again, I was seeing entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, but with systemization, with step-by-step process. Now my 10th house was led by Leo, which is the ultimate leader, creative, and really the sign that needs to self-express the most. So as I began to understand myself with all of those key work components, I knew where I needed to show up was being an entrepreneur who helped people with the systematic approach to their business. So of course, yes. So the one last element here for fun and for why I'm in this at all is my Jupiter. So we really want to look at our Jupiter in the natal chart to understand where we are expanding, where we are growing into our greatest gifts. And for me, that was in the 12th house. The 12th house is the unconscious, the ethereal, the connection to spirit and the universe. And that's where my Jupiter was really activating. And I also have Saturn there, which is once again more of a methodical kind of disciplined planet. But what came about was that I had started as a life coach, and I thought that was it. That was what I wanted to do. But I wasn't incorporating my Jupiter. And my Jupiter was in this unconscious, metaphysical, connected to our spirituality componentry in that 12th house. So when I brought that all together, you have the entrepreneur, you have the system operational guide, and then you have the metaphysical. That's when I finally was like, oh my gosh, it all clicks. This is what I meant to do. Entrepreneur who helps people with systems in the metaphysical world. So as I am traveling down this path of entrepreneurship now full time for 3 years, I have put all of those placements together and understood I quite literally am definitely in the metaphysical world and I use all these tools, but then I help creatives implement systems and discipline and structure in their business. So when you think about an astrology chart, I want everybody to really go beyond, we know what our sun is. Our sun is a component of our personality and where we are having self-realization of our soul's energy. But our moon is our connection to our emotional world and how we feel comfortable. And then our Jupiter and where that is placed and in what sign that is placed, that is where we are really being called to expand and bring our unique gifts into this world and what attracts abundance through giving your gifts to other people. So I look at all of these, and I was looking at your chart as well. For you specifically, what I thought was interesting, and I want to pause there before I go into you. How does that explanation for you help you understand what I do and how I impact?
Well, I think by you describing your path and also really going to that step of where I think we all get to, we've tried lots of things, we're still confused because, from school, we need to make a decision, then we need to go to college, when you're supposed to do something and we might make money, and it's just like very much confused. And it might take a lifetime, like for me, 50 years before I figured
Yes.
it out. And if I knew what you just shared now, that would have definitely helped me start going more intentionally into the direction of what I am meant to do or discover within myself. I definitely see that as a very valuable tool. And I can see how perhaps, which could be like another conversation, how it helped you actually make a decision of leaving corporate, because that's the scary part for many people, and then actually step into the world of unknown and uncertain, which is
Yes.
entrepreneurship. And we're
Mm.
still wanting that paycheck, but in the entrepreneurship, there is no paycheck, but there is an opportunity to make a lot of money and
Yes.
then not so much money and in between. And then
Mm.
navigating through all of it, that's why I see like, you need to be on a full-time roster
Mm.
so I can consult with you more.
Yes.
Especially, I know we had a conversation before and you also helped me funnel down
Mm.
where I am. And as you mentioned, Jupiter, and I was just quickly looking at the
Yeah.
printout that you gave me. And of course, it says that I have a natural talent for learning and find study to be enriching and somewhat easy. Every day there is something new to learn. And that's
Mhm.
my motto. And I'm like, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what
Absolutely.
we talked about. No
Hmm.
matter I am lacking structure and I am challenged to just sit down and make some kind of system out of it. And when I met with you and what you were explaining, it made sense. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm still feeling uncomfortable.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's
So where do you want to
something,
go from here?
yeah, well, it's interesting. And I can feel a little bit of that tension for you because you have your sun and your Venus. And Venus is another sign that I look to as to where do we bring in abundance, where do we bring in our contribution to the world. You have those both in Taurus, the
Mhm,
sun and Venus in Taurus.
mhm,
And those are very, that whole feeling is like wanting to feel in the luxury, wanting to feel in the beauty. You have them in the seventh house, which is all about partnerships. So you really expand and come alive when you're collaborating in partnership and you're feeling into the beauty, feeling into the ease, feeling into the flow. And I have discussed that with you, and that's a beautiful part of your personality. Now, the interesting thing that you have that is similar to me is your moon. Your moon's in Capricorn. Now, mine was in Virgo, but both of these are earth signs. Now, your moon is in Capricorn. You do feel comfortable when you are working, when you are accomplishing, when you are meeting your goals. All of that Capricorn moon energy is what enabled you to be so successful in your earlier career. But the interesting thing is your moon and your sun and Venus, they are trining. And you have the unique capability to bring these together. But what I see in your chart that is just calling out to me so strongly is you have all of these planets in the third house activating your Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, they're all in the third house. And when I see all that activation in the third house, that is written communication, intellectualism, and really there is a force compelling you to write a book, to contribute through communication. And I think this is part of your communication. I do think that you taking a step back at a moment in time and really being intentional about what is the book that needs to be written, what is the story that needs to be told is part of your purpose. That once you do that, you are going to allow yourself to feel into the focus and the discipline in even a greater way. Because through writing a book and through putting that together in a focused methodology, you will start to flex that discipline muscle again. Because you have this unique componentry where if you can take the discipline and the expansion that you have and you can marry it to the beauty and the flow, you have those in a trine. Once you activate that and lean into that, you are going to see the ultimate expansion. So it really is in our charts. It is about the realization of self. And we want to move beyond that sun sign because, like with you and your moon, when we bring all of it together, we really activate the magic of our personality. So I would love to see you take that beauty, that flow, that intensity of the sun and Venus and marry that up with Capricorn because you have the ability within you to really, really hone both the masculine and the feminine. It's just for you, there's a componentry of writing that needs to be activated.
Hmm. Yes, that's very interesting. And I never considered myself as a writer per se. Um, but maybe just yes, I haven't explored it, and
Mhm.
have the interesting story to tell that when I came to America, and I also went to college, and of course English was my second language, and I didn't really write in English, and especially business papers. I remember at the college they had that learning center, so I
Mhm.
got a tutor, and she was an adult woman who was excellent at writing, and she actually systematically, because she
Yeah.
was systematical,
Yeah.
explained to me the business paper writing.
Mhm.
So, and I like that system, so I almost like plugged it in. and I
Yeah.
could write papers. And I remember when I was in my master's degree, and this particular class was taught by this innovative teacher who wasn't doing anything by the book, but it
Yeah.
was about like free thinking, creativity, like figure it out problems, solve it. All of that was encouraged. And he
Hmm.
was still teaching principles. And every book we had to read, every project we had to do 2-page writing.
Yeah.
So it was business writing. And the whole idea, he's like, 2 pages. I
Yeah.
don't need any more. Can
Yeah.
you just give me like what you're focusing on? It was more like structured, it was more
Hmm.
compressed.
Hmm.
And I loved it. I was like,
Yes.
yep, done, no problem. And
Yes.
then I remember he was talking about it in the class, and they were adult people, all have
Hmm.
jobs and master's
Hmm.
degree and all that. And he said, well, guys, your writing skills need to improve because
Yes.
I'm asking you 2 pages. I'm asking you to focus on one thing, and you give me,
Mm.
15 pages and going all over the place. And
Yes.
he's like, but Julia, who is not even from this country, whose English is second language.
I love it. I love it.
So he's like, I recommend you perhaps, get tutored by her.
Yes. I love it. I love
And I
it.
was like, what, me? And I remember one lady actually did approach me and she's like,
Mhm.
can you take a look at my paper and give me some tips? And I remember looking at her paper was which like 5 or 6 pages. And I read it and I'm like, so what's the point?
Yes.
And she
Yes.
says, I don't know. Well, this is what it is. In this paper, I don't know what the point is.
Yes. 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 And that
Yeah.
was you beautifully activating your Capricorn moon. You had that commitment to the process and the system, but you also had the creativity.
Mm,
So, feeling into and understanding where our unique gifts are is where the practical application of astrology is.
mhm,
So I want to have everybody, as they think about their charts, and you can pull charts, online all over. Astro.com is one of my favorites. But I really want you to understand your sun. So, for myself, it was Aries. I have that fire. Your moon, which for myself was Virgo, earth sign, very practical, systematic systems, overall operational focused. And then your rising sign, which we haven't talked about yet, but my rising sign was Libra.
mhm,
And that's the theme of my entire life is the balance of beauty and flow, and then the masculine and kind of actively going after what you want and getting it. You and I both have Libra as our rising sign. So we are really in this lifetime meant to find that perfect balance of a lot of different things. So we're going to be faced with, okay, masculine and feminine balance, work and life balance. Like it always needs to feel like you have just enough of the doing and just enough of the being. And that is part of our journey. That is part of the theme of our life. Now, those are the three things that a lot of astrologists will talk about: the moon, the sun, the rising. In the world of career abundance and understanding what your unique contribution is, I want people to look to their Venus and their Jupiter. Where are those placed? And then I also love to have people look at their second house for their finances and their 10th house and their what I would call their MC for their ultimate contribution and purpose. So those are the different components as the astrologer that I'm looking at to understand all the different things within your life that are thematic and part of your personality, and then where's your unique contribution. So that is the practical application of astrology in your career. And then as a side note, which is a totally different topic, I love to look at astrology and relationships. So there's two different ways in relationships to look at this. We have synastry charts where we are actually looking at your chart and your significant others and how those overlap. and I understand how your unique energies will provide opportunities for growth, and also why you may be attracted to this person, what they bring into your life uniquely that you need to learn, and really what your journey is going next. Then there's composite charts where I combine your energy, your significant energy, and what is the energetic body you create together that you are meant to contribute to this world. Because every relationship is a unique entity, especially after you've been in that relationship, I would say for 5 years. You are creating a unique energetic body that is having an influence on the community of people around you. And when couples understand that unique energy and how to activate it, I see magic happen in their relationships. I see ease, I see the flow, and I see understanding of the yin and yang proponents in the relationship. So, practically speaking, astrology is a beautiful tool for a lot of things, but I specifically use it for career and relationships. And personally, I have learned so much about how to show up in my relationship in a better way, in a more accepting way, and affirm my husband for all of the unique strength that he has that I started to, you always fall in love with the person for certain things, and then you also are challenged by those things later. It was coming into those charts and understanding his unique, he has a grand trine fire. He has a huge entrepreneurial spirit and a never-ending energy. And me, I had to feel a little bit more into my earth element of my moon in Virgo, that I am the operational person in this relationship. And with my rising Libra, I am the one who's always holding us in balance of the being and doing, because he would always be doing.
Mhm.
And I have to be more in the being state because it's natural to me. The
Mhm.
tough part sometimes is when you look at charts, I have a very high masculinity. He has a very high masculinity. Um, I have to be the one to feel into that feminine because that is a little bit more of my nature in my chart than it is in his. So relationships, it's so helpful to have that understanding because we don't necessarily have the tools to understand ourselves when we are in a therapeutic environment. We're just kind of talking about, okay, this is how it stands today and how do we make it better. In the astrology practice, we really start to understand who we are, how we operationalize our day-to-day life in a better way that we can work with those energies collectively better. So I wanted to call that out too. So that means our next chapter is looking at you and your husband's chart.
Yes. No, that's is very beneficial. And also I feel like it's almost this gift from divine that
Yes.
it should be instilled in schools. And before maybe people have kids, they should
Yes.
figure out all the other things and
Yes.
understand how to raise your kid as well. Because like
Absolutely.
this chart and the human design. So, what I now understand about myself, I love independence and a lot of freedom. But what I was doing all my life is the other way.
Yes.
Wonder it never like worked to the degree of that fluid balance. And I was like
Mhm.
always rebelling and then essentially wasn't a good girl, but I was trying to be a good girl. And all of that was so confusing.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see so much value for sure. Everybody should be like hiring Nikki and figuring things out before, it's too late or something else needs to show up so that we can finally get it.
Yeah, and I would say too, as an astrologist, I there's a lot of different things that you can learn, but as a coach, bringing in the coaching, bringing in I understand how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
And here is how we transition to our ultimate authority, purpose, and contribution. But there is a reason why we went through what we went through too, because that is part of our destiny path. But I will say, an astrology chart is a part of your fate, but you always have your free will. and you have your mind to create the reality you want to live in. So combining astrology and coaching allows people to understand a little bit of their fated personality. And then also, how do they rise to their highest level given their creativity, their free will, and what they feel in their heart they want to do, in addition to the astrological energy that has been gifted and fated. So we really want to think about astrology as an amazing tool, but we want to think about the practitioner who's taking us through it. How do they marry where you want to go with how your astrological imprint is, and what does that transition look like? So the power is in the process as well as the understanding.
Yes, it's well put, because yes, I don't necessarily want to be codependent to my sign and start using it.
Mhm.
Well, it's because I'm Taurus. Oh, it's because I'm
Yeah.
an spouse. No, there is that free will component. And that's where, yes, I think the coaching can bridge and bring other
Mhm.
tools.
Mhm.
It's really just navigating and noticing through your language, notice through your attachments,
Yes.
hanging out, because there are always gifts there if we're willing to see them. So that's for sure. I'm just going to ask you one more question about it,
Yes.
because we talked about the relationship and career. So let's say that I am in a leadership position, like I work with a lot of female leaders,
Mhm.
and they want to be that leader, perhaps using all those qualities that they
Yep.
have, we don't know about. So would that be also something that you can help them with, to help them see what qualities they're not using, what qualities are there for them, and how it can be brought forward to lead their teams and
Absolutely.
about it?
Absolutely. So the astrology chart is going to help you understand your leadership highest capability and what traits to really focus on. And it's also going to show you what you are unconscious of your influence in other people. So there's a couple different componentries we want to look at as to how to reactivate your greatest intelligence, your greatest influence, your greatest persuasion of the people you're working with. But also, what are you less aware of? What do you need to cultivate in your skill set? I will say for leaders, especially, what I like to look at too is I like to do the relationship assessment with some of the key players that they're working with. So they overall know their leadership style, but as a leader, you always have key people that you're really trying to create better relationships with. And I like to look at both of the charts, especially let's say you're, a CFO and you're working with the CEO. We really want to understand that unique energy you're bringing together and how to reactivate that in an even higher purpose. So, as a leader, I can help you understand holistically where you're at and where you really need to become more conscious of being able to influence and motivate your staff. But for key relationships that you have, that is where I like to dive into. How do you really work better together in these relationships that are going to allow you to then have that greater influence, have that greater understanding of your team's strengths, how to activate them, and how to motivate and influence them? Because it really is about some of the key relationships as a leader with your managers, with the people who are running different components of your organization. How do you understand what they are good at, and then how you uniquely complement them? So it's kind of a two-pronged approach with leadership. It's self-understanding, but then it is really understanding with your key players. How do you synergize in a way that you may not have been aware of, similar to the relationship analysis I do?
Yeah, that's brilliant. So yes, I'm a strong believer in astrology and using that as a tool to help yourself shorten those pitfalls or those doubtful moments that we are all
Mm,
experiencing, so that we can be more intentional on our path and more conscious about it. So,
absolutely.
and I definitely love collaborating with you. And just to announce, so from now on, all my packages are going to be including 90 minutes with Nicki. so that all my clients can schedule, which also can help in our coaching relationship. So that it's in the package, it's included. You only have to make a call and set the session, and you're gonna be gifted with this beautiful energy, wisdom, and lots of beautiful revelations. I've learned so
Mhm.
much about myself, what I couldn't quite make sense of, and you helped me get some clarity. And even just from something that you said earlier when you were explaining my chart, you said that when I finally decide or have that idea that I'm excited about the book or whatever that
Mm,
communication is, then suddenly I'll get the structure going. And
yes.
yes, like that just was like a bulb moment for me, light bulb moment for me, because that's how kind of have done lots of things. And I
Mhm.
think that's where I need to perhaps continue working with you, is to actually settle.
Yes.
And also going into the structure point of it, I actually do have a lot of schemes and diagrams, because I kind of go into the steps.
Mhm.
I write them down and I draw them, or
Mhm.
something. It's more like drawing them
Yeah.
and just kind of systems. I'm like looking for systems, but I feel
Yes.
quite subtle there. But that's another conversation. So yeah, I think that is enough for today. So there's a lot to chew on, and we'll continue talking. But for astrology, this is it. This is our episode, but we will be bringing forward other episodes about tarot and human design. So you can stay tuned. Thank you, Nikki, for your wisdom and sharing it with us and my audience. And I'm excited to have you added into the package so that people can benefit from your gifted skills and also from their charts. That's amazing.
Mhm. I
Is there
love it.
anything else you want to add?
No, I did want to add, because I don't think I have shared this before, but I was in human resources for about 13 years, and I have corporate marketing experience. So the marriage of understanding the corporate hierarchy and processes, I love that I can bring that background in addition to the metaphysical tools. So it really, I feel like as a metaphysical practitioner, sometimes people can get a little disassociated with the typical structures of society and how we are actually activating things, especially in big corporations. So I love that I can bring that understanding, but also the magic to it. So as I meet with people who are in leadership, I have compassion for the operational systems that they're working in, but also the vision of how they could even enjoy it more deeply. So I did want to share that, as I love marrying those two experiences together.
Yes, and that's the component I also love about you, because you're still like earthy and grounded, because I know sometimes you go to those
Yeah.
people and they're just on the seven cloud or whatever, six cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
A
it's like a
different
little
dimension.
too much for me. So I
Mhm.
need some grounding, like nothing is wrong with them. That's who they
Mhm.
are. But I love that you're definitely bring that masculine component and
Mhm.
feminine component and making it practical. And I know you are very versed into saying sixth house, third house, and all of that. I have that print out and I was reading it
Good.
before our session, but I really highly recommend. Yes, you can go to astro.com, but it's going to be so more beneficial to actually have somebody who can like bring it into life and also ask the right questions for you to help you just connect the dots. Because I was reading it and I was nodding my head, but I know when I sat down with you, you like this conductor and the music
Mhm.
started to play and make sense, you know? All
Good.
right. Well, thank you again. So all the links are going to be in our show notes and in the episode. There is also a special event that Nikki is doing, which is also going to be, we're going to mention that in the end of this episode, and you'll also find a link for it to join the special event. Thank you so much. And connect with your magic so you can share it with the world.